Let's bring Dan Kennedy back.
Thank you, Russ. Okay, you ready for some difficult work? We're going to go to math class. Gee, I hate math. I was really bad at it in school. And the main reason I was bad is because it didn't interest me. Until I found out that most businesses, to be profitable, you've got to do the math. And the advertising, but when I got into advertising, I started in traditional advertising, not direct response. Traditional, by that I mean brand creative types were housed and fed good food and sort of coddled. And, keep in mind this is the 70s, early 70s, and so I figured it turns out that the traditional advertising business is only about that a little. Mostly it's about numbers. And the direct response business, where we live, is about that even less. Product. It's not the product. For every successful product, you can go find me. I can find you 20 just like it who have languished in warehouses under cobwebs where people who have gone broke with them. Not the product. Some people think it's the marketing. And those of us who do that for a living, particularly those of us who write copy for a living. Think about this for a second. I'm not the only one here in the room who does it. There are some people here who, if not as their primary business, as part of their business, sell copywriting and take fees, and in some cases, as I do, royalties from clients in exchange for writing copy. And like to do a typical direct mail package, say a 8-page sales letter and some enclosures and an envelope. Depending on the product category and the relationship with the client, I'm going to charge somebody somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000. Now, the first thing you should know about that is that the first requirement, qualification necessary to be successful as a direct response copywriter has nothing to do with your skill as a copywriter. It has to do with your ability to keep a straight face while you ask somebody for $15,000 to $25,000 to write a letter. This requires practice. I mean, you have to sit in front of a mirror and do this for a while, because it's on the surface it's ridiculous, but it's a value issue. You see, it's not the thing. But what I'll confess to you is it's not the copy that is the number one success factor either. The number one success factor is good economics. What are good economics? They are numbers that favor you versus disfavor you. And so let me explain that. Let's take direct mail generically, just as a marketing medium. And if you guys are probably on lots of mailing lists, and so you probably get lots of junk mail. Right? Hopefully, page is gone. Hopefully, when you get your junk mail, what am I about to say? Hopefully you do. You study it. Can you believe this? A lot of people throw it out. I say, what are they thinking? Throwing out junk mail. Publishers Clearinghouse. How many of you get Publishers Clearinghouse mailings? Good. How many of them throw them out? What are you thinking? Throw them out. You know what that piece is? It's a mastery level seminar in how to do things. People throw out their junk mail. Incredible. But you probably get a lot of junk mail, right? Most of that mail, and pay attention to stuff you get over and over again, you know? Most of that junk mail, most of that direct mail, the money is being made with response percentages below 1%. It's being made in the fractions of a percent. Okay? If you're in a niche market, a lot of my clients do niche marketing. Michael Kimball yesterday talked to you about niche marketing, meaning, well, like Tony's here, Piranha Marketing sells marketing materials, courses, seminars, books, tapes, videos, only to carpet cleaners. Nobody else. And it's by carpet cleaners, for carpet cleaners, niche market. There, most of the money's made with maybe 2% response rates. Now, here's the mistake people make. They say to themselves, my response. Bad thinking. If you do, great. But it's bad thinking. Smart thinking is, I'm going to figure out how to make money if I get a 0.5% response. Then if I do better, I'll make even more money. But I'm going to put myself in a position I want to play the game. So you want to tilt the economics in your favor. So what I want to talk to you a little bit about this morning is stuff you're not going to want to hear or deal with. I want to talk to you about realistic numbers. And I want to take you through a thinking process of how to figure out how to put the economics in your favor. Even when they start out in your disfavor, when you recognize that, what to do. And so we're going to talk about numbers. One quick underlying thing about all this, because nobody likes doing this. If you do go read Think and Grow Rich, you'll find that Napoleon Hill identified 13 success principles. There's 13 of them. Not a big number. That all 500 of these people he studied had in common. 13. One of them was, the term he uses is accurate thinking. In other words, he found that if you want to make money in direct response, you need to do it based on real numbers. So, let's, for the sake of conversation, let's start talking about this. Let's assume we got some CDs. And let's assume they got a $49.95, enough for you to get it all anyway. So all you got to do is just be frustrated and mad at me if you're trying to do it. But so we make these assumptions. Okay? The first thing that you want to grasp, here's like big idea number one. Tough to make money in direct response with a $50 item. Even tougher to make money in direct response with a $10 item. Tougher with 20, but tough at 50. Here's one. Costs almost as much to sell a $50 item as it does to sell a $300 item. The cost of sale rarely goes up proportionately to the price. So if you want to tilt the economics in your favor, you figure out a way to get a higher price. There's always some price elasticity in a market based on their interest. Let me explain to you what price elasticity is. It's a real important concept. I got to find somebody that's devoutly interested in saying. Is there anybody? You see, there's no golfers. Are you a golfer? You are. Do you play a lot? You play as much as you can. You any good? Okay. What would the guys you play with say? All right. You got any problems? Do you slice? What's the worst part of your game? Off the tee. And off the tee you slice? Huh? Okay. Sometimes you slice. Sometimes you hook. How's your distance when you don't slice or hook? Okay. All right. Do you ever play for money? You guys like bet against each other? Okay. All right. Now, if you want the golf market, you're getting it. This guy's it. He's a golfer. Okay. Now here's the next question. If you believed something could cure your slice, if that's a given, if I stood here and explained something to you that would fix your slice, and so you are never, ever, and in 15 minutes I can show you, all we got to do is find a club, I can show you how never to slice again. What will you pay me to do that? I'll bet you have, and you're still slicing. So knowing that, if you believe me, you will never slice again, what will you pay me? $300-400. Okay? Now, let's say we're going to put together a manual and a videotape on how never to slice again. And we're going to sell a videotape and a workbook. What do you think most people would think you should price the video and the workbook at? Yeah, most people are going to think, yeah, you're nodding good. See, most people are going to think video, workbook, $29, $39, $49 maybe. If I told you $59, I'd be stretching most of your credulity. You would say to yourself, if he believes, it'll cure his slice. Do you need me? If this is a car with headlights on in the parking lot, I want you to know you're dead. Okay. All right. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Then whoever sent you up here is dead. Okay. There's a 56 Plymouth. It's the one with the primer paint. The engine was knocking when you shut it off. It's still knocking. Please go out and turn your car. No. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. See, he'll pay $400. Now, let me tell you something else. He said $400. If I pressed him, he'd pay $600. Particularly if I let him do it in 3 payments. Right? That's what I mean by price elasticity. The word elasticity means you can stretch it. And every market. See, now you wouldn't pay 10 cents. I wouldn't either because we don't play golf. See? Or a guy who plays golf once a year wouldn't pay. See, but he will. See? So every group, every market that has a profound interest in something will be more price elastic than you would think about what they'll pay for information relevant to that profound interest. Does that click with you? Okay. See, and understand that different people are profoundly interested in different things, see? And so they won't pay anything for one thing, but they'll pay a lot for another. And to everybody else, what they pay a lot for, they look totally unreasonable. Are you nuts? It's all the same glop. It's all made in the same factory. 55, don't make no difference. It's the same crap. See, different people profoundly interested. And here's the other thing you got to know. Keep this in mind when we talk about mailing lists, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. People's profound interest tends, and so you suddenly decide, oh, well, I got to do something about this, right? So when somebody, now what do they, now suddenly you have a profound interest in weight loss. And you tend to buy a lot of stuff. Not one gadget, 2 gadgets. 4 diet books, not one, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a profound level of interest. Wherever there's a profound level of interest, there's price elasticity. Okay? And so one way to monkey with the economics is to give yourself a price advantage. So let's assume we got these CDs, right? We got to think about how we can get from 50 and buy 4 or make them buy 5 in a bundle. You can't just get one. You got to buy 5. We can bundle. Mm-hmm. We can bundle them with something else. Okay? Here's 4 CDs and 4 special reports bundled together. We can bundle them. Okay? This is not a revolutionary concept. We just talked about Vegas. Do you know you can't get a hotel room in Vegas for Saturday night? Yeah, they won't sell you one. You can't get one. You can't make that reservation. 2 nights. 2. Not 1 on a weekend. You want to go to Vegas? Friday and Saturday. Can't show up on Saturday. Can't do it. They bundled 2 days together. And because there's enough people who want to go there, people say, okay, I guess I got to come for 2 days. Bundle. Okay? So, for the sake of our math conversation, here's what we're going to do. We're going to, by some combination of all that stuff we could do, we're going to get to a number that I'm going to use for my examples of $120 of gross profit. Right? The doohickey that we're going to sell, the box that we're going to sell, gives us $120 of gross profit. That means $120 left after we pay to make it. Mm-hmm. We got a $120 number. Now let's talk about how we might sell the box. Let's talk about doing direct mail. Okay? We're going to go get a list from somewhere. We're going to rent the list. We're going to get a real good list. This is more than we're probably going to pay for it, but let's say we pay $100 a thousand. And we want to mail to it twice. Sequencing. Michael talked to you about that yesterday. Then we're going to send out a sales letter package. Letter, some enclosures, and an envelope. Maybe that costs us $1. The second letter. Now, let me give you an aside about that. For many pros, that would be fine. And they would be rushing to get mail in the mail. Because most of this business and most of business in America is based on another formula a lot of people don't understand. And that is buying the customer. Meaning they lose money acquiring a new customer, which you don't think of it as losing, you think of it as investing in the customer, and then you make your money from a series of transactions with the customer over a period of time, which we call total customer value. Now that's not unique to direct response. It happens in every business. Let's say you own a restaurant and you advertise in Valpak. You know Valpak, the thing you get at home with the coupons in it, right? And you find Baskin Robbins and Domino's and you throw everything else out. So let's say we advertise, we got a restaurant, we advertise in Valpak, and we advertise on the radio. You hear commercials for restaurants on the radio all the time, right? And maybe we advertise in the newspaper. In order to get a new customer to come into our restaurant for the first time, let's say John and Mary, Jim and what's your name? Anita. Jim and Anita now, they hear our ad on the radio, they get our Valpak coupon, they ask a couple people, you ever ate here? Yeah, it's pretty good. So now Friday night, Jim and Anita come down to our restaurant. They each have a nice Italian dinner. They look like non-drinkers to me. Well, Jim looks up, but let's say they're non-drinkers. So they don't run up a big bar tab. Let's say they spend $20. Did we make $20 on Jim and Anita? How much did we make on Jim and Anita? $5. And you think that's what? Less the cost of food? Less the cost of food and overhead? Gets you to $5. Wrong math. See, that's what most people would think. We take the $20, we deduct the cost of the spaghetti, we deduct the cost of the dishwasher, we deduct the cost of the overhead, we got $5 left. No. We had to run all that advertising to get them in the door. So they gave us 20, it cost us 35. We lost, quote, quote, bad word, switch it to invest. We invested $15 in getting Jim and Anita to try us once. We gave them good spaghetti. We took care of them nice. We gave them good service. We got to pray to the gods of the restaurant that they come back. Because the second time they come back will get us into break even, and the third time they come back, we now are making money on Jim and Anita. That's how the real world works. See, people don't get that, but that's how the world works. Direct response is often, but occasionally I'll advertise for new subscribers and I'll use card decks. Do you know what card decks are? The little postcard packs you get, and they're kind of like, they work kind of like Valpak, but they're postcards, right? And you get them, and I'll get new subscribers from that. And I sell subscription for $149. What do you think it cost me last year, on average, using card decks, to sell a $149 subscription? Anybody want to guess? $200. Anybody want to guess? Higher? $216. Cost me $216 to sell a $149 subscription. Now, the old joke is, but you make it up in volume. No. You don't make it up in volume. You make it up in total customer value, because that subscriber now will buy books from me, tapes from me, seminars from me, other people's products that I endorse from me, and will renew. And when you calculate all that, after I've had them for about 6 months, I've made up the deficit, and by the end of the year, I'm making money on them. Now, admittedly, deep pockets game. A game some people can't play at all. A game I'm only willing to play a little. I don't like the game, but I'll play it a little. Now, I tell you all that to make you understand that direct response economics are harsh. And so you can't take this stuff for granted. You have to get real smart about how you're going to play the game so you can stay in the game. So if we look at these numbers, at 1%, we're $800 in the hole, which, depending on how you want to play the game, may or may not be okay. At 1.5%, only another 0.5%, we're only $200 in the hole. We got to be to 1.8, though, to make any money. At 1.8, we're plus 160. Huh? Means for every now that's a wonderful number, by the way. Let's think about that number for a second. See, because some people would do that number wrong. Guy will say, only $160,000. Well, that'd be like money for, believe me, if it worked that way, there'd be 10,000 people in this room. You wouldn't be able to move. See, it doesn't work that way. $160. But think about how good a number it is if you really think about it. $160. If I knew, here's the question. It's like the golf question I asked him. If you knew, not theorized, but knew that for every 1,000 letters you got in the mail, you were going to net, after all expenses, $160, how many letters could you get in the mail next week? Yeah, your answer better be a bunch. I would be mobilizing every envelope stuffer, liquor, carrier to the post office person you could mobilize, right? You're down at the temp center getting the homeless guys on the corner. Come, can you lick a stamp? Get in the truck. Say, get in the truck. You would be calling in all your derelict, ne'er-do-well relatives. Come on over, we're having a stuffing party. Right? And as soon as you had enough money, then you'd be using mailing houses, and you'd be, because you would get, how many could you get in the mail? You would get a lot in the mail. See? That's why that's a good number, but a tough number to get to. This ain't easy to get to 1.8. Okay? But that tells you where we'd have to be in the scenario I constructed. If we have a box we're going to sell, $120 worth of gross profit in it, we got to be able to get 1.8 if we're going to make it money. Now, let's assume we're going to do another model. Here's a kind of a cheapskate model. We're going to just send out postcards, and we're going to make them go look at the website. We're not going to send them expensive sales letters. Key here, however, whoever we send the postcard to better be online. Well, think about that. Say, somebody says, I see people now running ads in magazines that the only response mechanism is drive to a website. It's okay if you can go there, but what about all the, so you bet if we're going to mail to a list, we better make sure. See, like this precludes mailing to Success Magazine subscribers. We got to somehow only mail to Success Magazine subscribers who are online. Otherwise, the waste will eat us alive. Guess what, by the way? A whole lot of people you would think are online ain't, and can't go. Because I'm not online, and I'm not going to be online in the near future. I got enough. I can't make my VCR work. The thing is still 5 years. It's still flashing 12. See, I'm not going online. Other people, them Amish people now are probably in their house with a gas generator and they're online, for all I know. I don't know. But let's assume we figured out. So we got a list cost, same as we had before. Our mailing cost is a lot less. Okay? The miscellaneous, now let's say we spend $1.35 instead of $2. Okay? What that means is, at 1%, we're only in the hole $1.50. And at 1.2%, we're in the good by 90. Now somebody says, geez, only $90. You know, it's a lot. But how many letters could you get in the mail if you knew for every 1,000 you mailed, you were going to keep $90? A bunch. Okay? Here's an entirely different model. Now the economics here are very different, so don't get excited about the first number. This is a lead generation model. This means we don't mail, we run ads. But the ads don't advertise our product necessarily, they don't advertise our service necessarily, they don't advertise our book, our tape, our report, our CD. They advertise for the person it's aimed at. So if I'm aiming at him, my ad says, attention, skinny black guys who play golf a lot and hook and slice like crazy. I have critically important information you should have before you step on the golf course with your buddies and lose more money the next time. To get that free information, call 1-800-GOLF-IDIOT. Okay, that's a lead generation ad. Okay, and by the way, it ain't a bad one. Now, when you run lead generation advertising, typically you're going to have a high lead cost, but you can't compare it to a list cost. It's just a different animal. So I'm going to tell you, just for the sake of conversation, that most applications you're going to be in the 5 to 15. So I averaged it. Let's say to get him to answer that ad, going to cost us $8. Right? That's the cost of the ad divided by the number of people who respond to it. So let's say it costs us $8. That we send out our sales letter, we send out our second mailing. I got the 20 cents in there for slop. Now we're spending $9.80. However, your response percentages here are much different than they are from direct mail. They really should start at 10% when you run a lead generation system. So if we drop all the way down there, we'd be in the plus right away. Maybe I mean, see, at 9%, we're in the plus by 1,000, and at 8%, we're only in the hole by 200. So if I'd done the math, maybe at 8.5%, we're in good shape. We got a pretty good shot of making this work. The bad news about making this work is it requires a lot more capital because you got to go run ads, and you got to buy the space 2 months before it runs, and it's not like putting stuff in the mail. But it's a model. Now, the most important thing to understand about all three models that I showed you is they all require above industry average response percentages in order to make money. That means we are carving out for ourselves, with our box of CDs that we're going to sell for $120 gross profit, we're carving out for ourselves a difficult task. Not an impossible task, but a difficult, not an easy, a difficult task. Because here's the question. In the traditional direct mail model, if you go back and do all the math that we just did together very quickly, you're going to find out that basically, with an inordinately high response percentage, you can make 40 cents a unit. So in order to make $100,000 in 90 days, you need 250,000 names. That's what you need. And so the question is, can we find 250,000 of hymns if we got golf CDs? Are there 250,000 of him? Are there 250,000 people who have a profound level of interest in whatever our subject matter is on our CDs? That's the question. Can we find them? Can we get their names and addresses? And do we have enough resources to, in a period, even bootstrapping our money, do we have enough resources in a period of 100 days to mail to 250,000 people? Those are the questions. If we're going to use the other model, the postcard model, we reduce the universe needed down to 100,000. But now the question is, can we find 100,000 people who have a profound level of interest in whatever our subject matter is, and we know they're online, so they can go to our website, and do we have enough resources to mail to 100,000 people in 100 days in order to make this goal? The lead generation model, can we find enough places to advertise where people who have a profound level of interest in our subject matter are, who are likely to respond to us, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? Now, if those numbers don't work for you, then you got to go back to the economics, and you got to find ways to increase the sales price, increase the margin, or increase the response percentage. Okay? And in most cases, if you look at these numbers, you're going to say, like it or not, if you want to make big money in direct response, you need some money. Now, I know it is fashionable to tell you that you can start with nickels and make millions. And you can, but not in 100 days. You're going to need some resources. So, guy says, I ain't got no resources. Let me tell you what the answer to that question is, what I do with my pen. Just a disaster up here. Here we go. Guy says, I don't have no resources. Those of you taking notes, here's the answer. Get some. That's the answer. Okay? When I started my first business, I said to a guy, I could start this business if I had some money, but I don't have any. He asked me a great question. He said, do you know how to cut grass? I said, yep. He said, do you know how to wash a car? I said, yep. He said, go get some. Now, I know that's horribly simplistic. And it'd take a hell of a lot of lawns, to put together $10,000 or $20,000 to launch a serious marketing campaign. But not so many to put together 1,000, A lot of people got a lot of junk in their house. That's another situation. You may need to get partners. You may need to get investors. Do you know, by the way, right now, web businesses are so hot. If you got a good idea for a web business, there's people standing in line to invest in this business. I have a client last week. He raised money for you. This business exists. So, if it took you 1,000 days, not that bad. You got to be reasonable about this resources issue. This business, to make serious money, requires resources. Good news is, proportionately, requires less resources than any other business. That's why I'm in it. That's why I love direct response. See, we don't got to worry about store. We don't got to go get, like we were talking about last night, the speakers dinner, we're talking about the printing business. See, you don't got to worry about equipment. We don't have to worry about staff. In most cases, we don't have to worry about inventory. Most information businesses, you can publish on demand. You can make it kind of as you need it. Sell it, make it, sell it, make it. So proportionately, you need much less resources to do this business than any other business. In fact, if you stop thinking about it, this is the only business in the world where 90% of all the resources you get to the business go into directly this process of selling something. In all other businesses, the resources get all ate up with a bunch of stuff that doesn't have anything to do with selling anything. And a lot of people start business, by the way, and use up all their resources just to decorate, cheat. All right? How to jerry-rig these economics and make them work for you even when they are against you. Here's what we can do. We can fool with the prices and the margins. That's the first thing we can do. We talked about that already. We can fool with the prices and the margins, right? So instead of $120 gross margin, what if we got $400 gross margin? Go back and look at the numbers. Now we don't need 1.5%. Now we only need 0.5%. And since he's elastic and will stretch, we may not diminish our response percentages in any way, shape, or form proportionate to how we raise the price. So one thing we can do is fool with the pricing. The second thing we can do is figure out how to get extraordinarily responsive lists. The third thing we can do is get joint venture partners where they already got customers who will match up well with our products. Those are the three ways you can cheat. They're the only three I know about. Let me tell you about the middle one very quickly. It's the one we haven't talked about. Let's talk about lists. One of the ways we can fool with the economics is finding ultra-responsive lists. Again, a caution. This is dangerous thinking. And under utopian circumstances anymore, when you play golf package of CDs, I go find somebody who sells a golf gadget. And they got a list of 50,000 people who bought this thing you fasten on your head and tie it to your crotch, and when you swing it straight, Yeah, so I go find them, and we do a joint venture to sell my How Not to Slice videos to their customers. I'm going to get an inordinately high response from that list. Okay? If you're going to rent lists, and we got to go to the rental list market, then we got to be concerned with, first of all, you want buyer lists, not compile. Well, first of all, do you all know about SRDS? Do I need to tell you about SRDS? How many people know about SRDS? Raise your hands. Jeez, okay. Real quick. The place you go do your research for everything I'm about to tell you is a thing you will find in your main city library. Not in a small town library, but in a main city library. And it is called SRDS, which stands for Standard Rate and Data Service. And it's a directory of every commercially known mailing list available on the planet. Privacy in America is dead. And so if I want a list of tall, skinny black guys who play golf and wear Nike polo shirts and drive Jeeps, I can get the list. Probably not a very big list, but I can get the list. Okay? Now, I'm going to have to get a list of Jeep owners, I'm going to have to get a list of tall, skinny black guys, and I'm going to have to get a list of golfers, and then I'm going to have to compare the three of them and only take the ones that duplicate on the three lists. The technical term for that is merge-purge. If you're doing big quantities, they'll do it for you. If you're doing small quantities, you get the three lists and you put them out on your living room floor and you get down in front of them on your knees and you do it manually. Right? either way, you wind up with a list of tall, skinny black guys who play golf and drive Jeeps. Boom. So if that's what I wanted, that's what I got. Okay? So you go to Standard Rate and Data Service and you go on a hunt. What you don't do is call a list broker out of the Yellow Pages and say, get me a good list. Say, that's the lazy way, and that don't work. You go to SRDS and you hunt. Now, some of the things you got to understand when you hunt, you got to understand, first of all, buyer versus compiled. Okay, a buyer list, you understand that instantly. It means they bought something. So I can look at it, I find the list of everybody that bought one of them golf gadgets I described that you wear on your head and fastens to your crotch and straightens out your swing. Boom, there's a list. So now I not only know they're interested, they have a profound interest in golf, but I know they're willing to reach in their pocket and spend $69.95 for something about golf. A compiled list would be just everybody in Indiana who plays golf. And it's compiled from everybody who went to a country club once and played golf or something. See, that's not as good of a list as a buyer list. Okay? Then within the buyer list, we need to know all this stuff. We need to consider recency. Recency means how recently they bought. In many cases, you want the most recent. I'd like to get him a week after he bought that gadget, if I can do it, because he's in heat. He'll buy lots of stuff. 2 months from now, he may have given up golf. I want him now. Recency. Sometimes you want him after they've, like if in the newsletter business, the financial newsletter business, they generally don't want the recent ones. They want the expires. Because everybody's given up on guru number 1 and is ready for guru number 2. See? So you got to consider recency. Frequency. Some deals, they'll buy more often. If I'm going to sell cosmetics, I want a list of mail order cosmetic buyers who bought 6 times last year, not once. Frequency of purchase, right? Price match. If I'm going to sell a $300 widget, I'd love to find a list of tall, skinny black guys who play golf who bought a $300 widget rather than a $69.95 widget. Because now I know he'll spend $300. So I look for price match. Can't always get it. Obviously, topic match. Golfers to golfers. And multi-buyers, meaning they've bought more than one thing. Okay? Let me talk to you quickly about affinity. Here's one way that often will give you a big bump in response. We got this box of CDs. Okay? Let's forget the golf example for the time being, and let's assume the CD is called affinity. Let's assume you're a retired barber. Then what you want is you want the list of these people who subscribe to this antique magazine, and you want a list of retired barbers. And you want to mail only to retired barbers who subscribe to the antique magazine. So you can say from one retired barber to, and you and I were just having, he sells a product very much like Ken Roberts' product. He sells a product on how to invest in commodities. He sells it only to truck drivers. By running lead generation ads in magazines that are sold in truck stops to truck drivers. There's 5 of them, in case you didn't know. Now, on the surface, you'd say, a course on how to invest in commodities to truck drivers. Huh? But he's a truck driver. That's what makes it work. See, so he can mail to truck drivers, and now he talks truck driver to them. Okay? You don't have time to start a regular business because you're on the road all the time. But you can trade commodities in 5 minutes a day. Once you learn my system, you stop at the truck stop, you make a phone call, you tote your laptop with you in the truck, okay? And he talks truck to them in the sales letter. So he takes a generic sales letter, just like one that, say, Roll Letters would give you, and he goes and monkeys with it a little to talk trucker in it. And he gives it only to truckers. And now instead of a 2% response, maybe he gets a 20% response. It's called affinity. Got it? That's not to say you should go after truckers unless you're a trucker. It's you got to match with the market. Does that? Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Okay. Key number 4. I got to be a horse's ass not to do this. That's the reaction they got to have to what you put in front of them. I'll give you another irresistible offer. It's the one Monica made to Bill. That's why he's in so much trouble. It was an irresistible offer. Got one of those, a single, date a girl, she's going to college in Murray State, Kentucky, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. This is a forever and a day drive back through Deliverance-type winding roads with toothless people sitting on porches who are inbred with their relatives, and horrible animals running around, and and the roads are bad, and it's winter, and who would want to make this drive? Took her 2 minutes on the phone. I'm on the road. Why? Irresistible offer. You got to ask yourself, is your offer that good? Is the offer you construct so good that somebody, before you could use toll-free numbers, but it's still a good example, the old analogy you realize that people like Russ and I made money in mail order when they couldn't call an 800 number and use a credit card? They had to send in a check. So the offer has to be so good. Is it so good? They'll butt up out of their easy chair on a cold winter snowy day, go find their check, get in the car, drive to the post office, and get it in the mail. That's an irresistible offer. And so the more irresistible your offer, the more likely you are to change the economics in your favor. The next key is high price, high margin. We talked about that. And the last key on my present, it certainly is in the near future. It's a way to fool with these economics. It's a way to level the playing field. It's a way to get something started and create bootstrap possible capital. It's a way to spend less money on literature. And so it offers fascinating opportunity. And even those of us who are tech resistant, which includes me, must pay attention. And so what you find me doing now, reluctantly, is beginning this process with the internet. And I'm starting that unconscious incompetence. I'm so dumb, I don't even know I'm dumb. And I got to do it. And it's painful, and I don't like it. But I got to do it. Because the numbers mandate it. It's the only place where the cost of marketing is going down. Print is going up, postage is going up, cost of technology is going down. Got to pay attention. Has to be part of your mix. Last thing I would say to you very quickly is we had 7 keys, if you remember our original list. Could you do me a favor? Would you rip that open and run around and just throw a handful at the end of every table or something? We're probably, I don't know if we're going to run out or not. The last principle is not a marketing principle. The last principle is a real interesting one. This principle is called do something. Okay, because most people don't do nothing. Okay? They buy boxes of stuff. They come to seminars. They get systems. And they go home and they don't do nothing. Right? 1,000 letters, they never mail one. 1,000 postcards, they never mail one. Right? Do something as a result of being here. Will you foul things up? Yes. Immediate feedback. You know. So you fail fast. Okay? I make a lot of money in this business. Most of the promotions I do don't work. It's the few that do that more than compensate for all the ones that don't. I'm a pro at this. Every sales letter I write doesn't work. I wish. but the ones that do. And story I told you at the very beginning of our time together. Bottom line of this business is, for most people's needs, for most people's, Ranker, the CEO of Guthrie Ranker, said to me one time on an airplane, "I'd pay $5,000 to go through your file cabinet." I said, if he'll pay $5,000, I'll bet there's a lot of people who'll pay $500. And maybe there's more who'll pay $200. And so the first edition of this book is I went home, took all my swipe files, all my information, all my notes, everything I had about direct response, dumped it out on the floor, spiral bound it, and sold it. We've since gotten a little more sophisticated. It's got page numbers and a table of contents, but this is like going through my files. Everything I've accumulated that's been worth keeping over the years about selling information by mail is in that book. If you don't have it, you probably ought to have it. The Masters collection of tapes there's 48 audio tapes. They come in boxes that look like this. There's a whole heap of them here that are from all of my direct marketing conferences from 1991 to 1995. The date on the form is wrong. Conference that the guy and his wife I told you about early attended, turned their business around. Tremendous guest speak call-in days when you can call in for free consulting. We have free marketing roundtables in various cities you can come to. You get my newsletter every month. You were just given some back issues and newsletters. And there's a package price for everything if you want everything. You do need to fill the forms out today, right, if not immediately before the photo session, immediately after the photo session, and get them to me. We will ship stuff to you, but I am not hanging around beyond my little Q&A at 1 o'clock. And so please take care of this today if you're going to take care of this. Folks, you've been a nice group. I've had a good time. I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you very much.